Welcome to another episode of Satisfying Static. The way you paused taking the drink, I'm like, is she done? Is she done with the drink? Is it gonna happen again?
It's because I looked at the timer and it was 1 second and I was swallowing and I was like, oh no.
Oh, you went there. You said swallowing. That's hilarious.
I was drinking coffee. That's what happens when you drink coffee and you have a microphone next to your face.
You have to swallow things. Okay, great. So we're firing up the random word generator today.
Can you hear Murray in the background? We may have a guest star.
Is he meowing?
Yeah.
I can't hear him. No,
okay, good.
Is he at the window?
My guest star. He's at the back door. Last night, he was meowing and scratching my back door so loud. Like, at night, it gets super quiet, so, like, everybody could hear it, that his mom, for all the listeners, I have a guest cat that visits, and he actually belongs to, like, the neighbors that live in the back apartment. But he was, like, being so loud last night, and I was just trying to ignore him because I didn't want to deal with him. His mom came out, and she was like, Murray, what are you doing? Get in here.
It's like the little neighborhood kid that's throwing rocks at the house, and you're like, Murray, get back. You get in his house right now.
I was dying. It was so funny. And usually he comes like right when I wake up, but he wasn't here this morning, and I was like, "Ooh, he got in trouble."
Yeah, no, he was in timeout last night. Oh, Murray, bud.
So anyway, sorry, I can hear him like struggling out there right now. Like, let me
in. Poor guy got scolded. Ugh. Well, in that vein, the first word is try.
Well, that is perfect. Murray is definitely the epitome of like not giving up. He tries so hard to get into this apartment.
Is he Thomas the Tank Engine?
I feel like that's a good analogy for him. He has like, okay, I don't know if I've told you this, but I leave my bathroom window like open just a crack to let some steam out, whatever, and it's like in the shower, right? And I'm like showering and I hear meowing and I'm just like, whatever, Murray. And, like, I'll be out in a minute. And he's fucking at the window, like trying to claw the screen out of the window to get into the shower.
He's like, excuse me, I see you and you're not hanging out with me and I'm furious. You better let me in that house.
Oh my God, he's the worst. He does not give up. So I put up a curtain on my back kitchen window because there's like stairs behind my window. So he'll sit on one of the stairs and just stare at me in the apartment until I let him in. He's look, I love him, but he's a little asshole. Like, he fucking drives me nuts. So I put up a curtain so now he can't see me. And then he was in here yesterday and I was like working or whatever and I heard a noise and I was like, what the hell's going on? And I walked into the kitchen. He's on my dish rack trying to pull this curtain down.
I'm not gonna lie. If Murray was an adult man, he would be arrested.
100%. Yeah. He's like terrorizing me and assaulting me. Like,
it's aggravated stalking. It's
honest.
like he's breaking in to rip down your curtain so that he can continue to see you.
Look, he's so controlling. I opened the back door because he was standing by it and I was like, dude, you want to go out? And then he was looking at me like, no, I don't know why you did that, bitch. And I was like, okay. So I tried to step outside of my own fucking apartment and this motherfucker grabs my pants with his claws and tries to bite me. He's like, no. You stay in the house.
Oh my God.
He's the most abusive boyfriend I've ever had.
Oh man, Murray.
He's a lunatic. So yeah, sometimes I leave him out there. I'm like, no, dude, I can't deal with you today.
He deserves it though, honestly.
Sometimes he really does. He's like definitely a character. He's the only cat I've ever been around who will legitimately like, he will grab he'll grab my legs with his claws and be like, no, pay attention to me. And if I'm super ignoring him, he will bite the back of my leg and be like, hey.
Oh my God. I'm still here, down here, but here. Hang out with me.
He's a little asshole.
Oh my God. So yeah. Circling back to the word try in the Thomas the Train. Did you ever watch Thomas the Train?
I mean, when I was little, yeah.
I genuinely never watched it. And the
really?
only thing I ever know about it is I think I can. But I'm pretty sure that was just like a one-off episode. Like that wasn't like
Um, I think it was like a reoccurring theme in like the books and the TV show and stuff,
there's
but
books.
there are books. Yeah, there were kids' books. And I used to have a Thomas the Train Engine like train. Cuz like of course, you know, go figure, I really liked cars and trains when I was little, so I had a lot of like Matchbox cars and like
Yeah, add
Thomas
that
the
to the
Train Engine
lesbian
and stuff.
list.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, that's why other little girls didn't want to play with those. Okay, well, anyway. Biggest collection of Matchbox cars ever. But yeah, I don't remember a ton of like the storyline. I really just remember I held on to this like toy train for way too long, like to the point where I was like, what is this again? Oh yeah, this is like a kid's toy. You know.
Wait, you were a Matchbox kid, not a Hot Wheels kid?
Oh, I guess I was a little bit of both. It kind of just depended whatever I could convince my mom to buy me,
I
to be
was a
honest.
big Hot Wheels kid.
Yeah,
I was
I
kind of
feel like
bougie about the brand. I was like, I'm a Hot Wheels kid.
I feel like Hot Wheels were more expensive, so it kind of just depended. So I definitely had like some Hot Wheels stuff, and that was the stuff I would want, but like I wouldn't always be able to. So because they had the coolest like ramps and shit, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah. So that was the thing, right? Like you bought
Yeah,
into Hot Wheels, and
yeah,
then you got to have like the Hot Wheels track and a Hot
right.
Wheels like carrying case. It was like a suitcase to like display all your cars on the go.
Right. Yeah. They had like all of the coolest stuff. So like I had like off-brand Hot Wheels, and then my best friend growing up was like not super spoiled, but he definitely had all the cool toys. So he got all of the
Mm.
Hot Wheels and all of the superhero toys and stuff. So I would just go over to his house and play with them there.
I distinctly remember a moment where I had bought the Hot Wheels carrying case, and I was like, "Yeah, this thing is awesome. It's like the coolest thing I've ever owned." And like on it, it said like does not work with other model car brands or something. And my mom was like, "Whatever, it's gonna be fine."
Mm-hmm.
And like got me a bunch of like Matchbox cars. Sure enough, they didn't fit by like an eighth of a millimeter,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is ingenious." I'm like, Hot Wheels really? They were
Yep.
like, "Nope, you can't take our fake chassis size." I'm like, what is this? Do you
uh,
know the Hot Wheels cars go for like big money even
some of
still?
them, yeah, I have seen that. Some of them do. Car people are interesting. You can sell model cars actually for a lot of money, weirdly, too.
Well, so like, you know the Funko Pops that I have a
Yeah.
few of. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So like,
yeah. Wait, do I have some behind me?
I
No.
was gonna say I think you have a couple, right? I
I
think you got
do. I
some of the
got a
horror ones, right?
I do, and I got a personalized one at the Funko Pop store in downtown LA. By the way,
Oh,
I have
right. Yes, yes,
a
yes.
Funko Me.
I would love one of those.
It was pretty fun. I highly recommend. It was worth it going because they have like not only all the Funkos but also like giant Funkos.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
cool.
I've heard it's super cool. But so like those have new releases, and new releases
Hmm.
have limited runs, and like those are worth money. Hot Wheels does the same thing. They
Hmm.
have like a new release, and those new releases have like whatever. So you know, you see these people at Targets or whatever, like sifting through boxes to find like the Funko Pop. They do the same thing with Hot Wheels, and I'm like, oh my god, wait, what? Like Hot Wheels are still collectible? Like I had no idea that people were still fighting for the. And I'm like, do they even make enough new cars to keep up with production? Like Funko, you can make a character from any movie, right? Like what variation? Like paint jobs? I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, I guess paint jobs, or like they could do like re-release old cars that they don't release often anymore, especially for people who are like car collectors. They would take like, you know, rare old vehicles. But
It's just fascinating to me. I just can't. I don't get it. I don't get
that's
it.
the toy collecting genre. I think like is interesting because it's so fun. Like I my past life had a lot of friends who did like comic cons and like cosplay and stuff, and those people tend to collect toys um heavily.
No.
And like, but like I could never have an entire room of Funko Pops, but I do think it's interesting how like many of us have sort of translated like our childhood into adulthood this way.
Yeah.
Like some people have kept very childlike and stuck with the toys and the things that made them feel comfortable. But like adults collect weird shit too. So like adults that are collecting Hot Wheels cars because they're car people, like you're still a big kid. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
your cars are still just toys. They're just big toys. Like
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I was reading about investment stuff the other day, like the investment down and dirty basics or whatever, and people were like super the first bullet point was like investment is takes a lot of forms. You can invest in physical things like baseball cards or coins. And I'm like, oh my God, right, baseball cards.
oh yeah.
Those are still worth loads of money. And like my brother's got a Magic Johnson card that was signed by him like when he was still in the NBA. Like, and he's got that in a safety deposit box somewhere that he's going to keep forever. And then one day he's like, well, eventually when Magic dies, it'll be worth a lot of money. And I'm like,
Will it though?
I guess.
See, that's all a gamble. I guess that's, you're right when you say like investment, but like I feel like that's all a gamble because like my my ex used to be like this, where he was always like, no, you can hold on to that because it's going to be a lot of money when it came to like cars and musical instruments, which like that kind of makes sense a little bit, but even cars go through phases, right? So like
Yeah.
he was very into like a very specific kind of car that looks like kind of a Bronco, which like that wasn't trending for a really long time. So it was easy to find those for super cheap. And then all of a sudden they became popular and it was really easy to sell them for a lot of money. But like that comes in waves. And so like the same thing with like and I was just watching like a show about this, but like I had a fuck ton of Beanie Babies. And like a bunch,
those all lost their value, right?
absolutely, a 1,000,000%. Like they're worth nothing, and so many people held onto them and collected them. Had rooms full of them,
yeah, for years.
and we're like, I'm gonna sell these for so much, and like totally lost all. I sold like an entire like garbage bag full of them for like $20.
Yeah, no, yeah, I did read about that, and that was like relatively recent. Like the Beanie Baby bubble finally popped in like the last like 5 years. People were like, "Oh yeah, no, these have no resale value," and the company is like, "We're reprinting all of them. We don't care anymore."
Well, yeah,
like, it's like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
Well, because I think the company really fucked themselves on that, but it's just like they transformed into something else and they're still making money. So why do they care about the Beanie Babies? Like, there's no reason to, you know what I mean? And so like with things like that, like with baseball cards, like I understand there's some things there's a better chance that they will hold their value, but even that, like you are really risking that you're holding onto that card that somebody in the future will give a shit enough to pay you what you want for it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because if you tie a thing to a person, it keeps more value.
Right.
So like Elvis guitar, right? Like you kept this guitar and you're like, yeah, he was a fun dude that I met in a club one time.
Right.
I don't know. And then fast forward 60 years and it's like, oh my God, he's like the biggest icon.
Right.
And you got super lucky in that way. Or it could go the other way and it ends up being like one of our disastrous Me Too situations right now. Kevin Spacey. Right. I kept a Kevin Spacey suit for 15 years thinking one day this is going to pay off from A Beautiful Mind. Right. He's not in A Beautiful Mind. What's he in? It's not A Beautiful Mind. What's the
American
other one?
Beauty. Is that the one?
American Beauty.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
the one with the roses.
Yeah. I kept his button-up shirt from, I don't even know, I've never even seen the movie, I don't even know if he wears button-up shirt, from American Beauty for 15 years, right? And I thought one day I'm going to cash in when he dies. Oh, shit, he's canceled.
Right.
He's so canceled, he's doing indie films that he can hardly even get a job in. And it's like, yeah, so, but then there's safer stuff, right? Like, Ken Griffey Jr. His rookie card. There's only ever going to be one rookie card, and if he ends up being a decent player, that was pretty safe, and you're going to spend loads of you're going to make money. So yeah, this is all a really big way of saying it's gambling, but it's like gambling with a piece that you're holding on to forever. So it's like gambling and hoarding had a baby.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, yeah, it's like if gambling and hoarding had a baby, then you'd have collectors.
Oh my God, I have it. Right, yes. So I have a story about gambling.
Of course you do.
I know. It's my vice. So I've been buying scratch-off tickets. Massachusetts is a $2. well, because Massachusetts is a $2 crossword. And I'm like, all right, if I spend $10 and get 5 of them, that's a lot, 5 of them, I'll feel a lot better. And so I was doing them at work the other day, and this patient's family member comes walking up to me, and they're like, yeah, I hit it big one time. I was like, oh, really? Like, I'm fascinated. How much? And they go, well, they're like, well, it wasn't a scratcher. I was in a casino. I was like, oh, okay, great. I'm still in this store. I still want to know how much.
I still need to know.
I still need to know. Yeah, I'm still being nosy. And at this point, this person's like this far away from me. And they're like, well, I put $2 into a slot machine. I'm like, yeah? Mm-hmm. What happened? Like, tell me. I want to know. And they go, I hit for $1.1 million. And I said, shut the fuck up. No way.
No way.
And they were like, no, seriously. I was on my way out of the casino. I saw a $2 slot machine that I thought looked cool. I sat down. I put in 1 credit's worth, hit the button, and hit for 1.1 million.
That's
and
insane.
I was like, oh my God. I was like, how much did you get to take home? And they were like, well, after federal tax and Massachusetts tax, which for those of you that don't know is very high for a state, they were like, oh, I took home about 600,000. They were like, but for 2 months I was a millionaire because they hadn't gotten my taxes yet. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
This human being is in their late 70s. They won in their early 70s.
Wow.
And they were like, I lost 26% off the top because I didn't want to get it over 20 some odd years. Because they were like, I'm not going to be around in 20 some odd years. Like, don't do that.
Right.
But they were saying that they invested a bunch of it and whatever. And it was just so funny that they were casually were like, yeah, I hit for $1.1 million. And I was like, whoa, what? I'm like, I just hit for 10 and I'm over here like crying tears of joy. You hit for 1.1 million. I'm like, oh my God.
That's crazy.
Well, winning 1.1 million in a casino is way better than winning 1.1 million in the lottery. It's not public record.
Oh, okay.
Casinos don't have the same legal obligation to share who's winning what money with the public. So the lottery has to, because they have to seem transparent. It can't be a rigged system or nobody buys into it, right? So like, you have to be transparent with who wins what. Only a very select few amount of states allow you to claim it with a trust or through someone else so that your name isn't published. Massachusetts is one of them. You can claim it through a trust. So if I ever hit it huge on the lottery, I would go straight to an attorney and be like, I need you to set me up a trust through 4 names to get back to me so that I can publish the trust name and not my own, so that people wouldn't hunt me down and do terrible things.
God.
Because nothing would change. If I won the lottery tomorrow, I would pay off all my debt. I'd pay off my family's debt. Yeah. And then I would still go to work.
Yeah. That's how most people function after they win the lottery, because you don't get paid out all at once anyway.
You can. You have the option to. You take a penalty.
Oh, do you?
But you have the option to. Yeah. So if it were me and I hit it big tomorrow, let's say I win $1 million, I would take whatever off the top to get a bulk payment now, and then I would diversify and invest the shit out of it. I would probably invest in a tiny bit in real estate, some version of like an office space or something. And then the rest of it would just go to taxes. Or to stocks.
To taxes.
Yeah, to taxes.
Basically.
The American way.
The American way. Most of it will go to taxes that don't help us in any way whatsoever, shape, or form.
It's super funny to say that. The Massachusetts lottery had a commercial the other day that was like, the lottery bought this, and this. And I was like, oh, how nice of Massachusetts to share what the lottery is buying. That's fascinating. Like Iowa never did that. Iowa was always like, play the lotto, win it big, leave the Midwest. Yeah, right. They never told you what you were paying for. But Massachusetts is like, this school and this school and this thing and this thing. And I'm like, oh, huh.
I think they're trying to make themselves seem better, but, that's interesting.
Oh, 100%.
But yeah, no, in Illinois, it always felt like no one ever won. It just felt like every week it was like, biggest win ever. Last week, no one won, so it's bigger now. You're like, how?
It happens, a lot of those quick pick numbers or whatever, that happens a lot. And I never understood the quick pick number things. Like, there's people who play the same 6 numbers every single day.
My dad's that person.
Yeah, across, X amount, and they're like, eventually these numbers will be right. And I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen the way that you think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, probably not in your fucking lifetime.
What if you? It's okay. So let's have a fun question. If you won the lottery tomorrow, what is the one big stupid thing that you would buy? Everything else is paid for. What's the one very lucrative thing, like luxury item that you would buy?
I don't know. That's like a hard question because I'm not like really that person. Like the first thing I would think of is I would like pay my rent for the next 2 years.
Right,
Like,
right,
off
yes.
the
So
bat.
after all that's paid for,
Like
after everything else is taken care of.
literally the biggest thing I could think of is like a Peloton.
Oh my God, seriously?
Yeah. Like,
Can I have your size dreams? Can we trade? Can I?
yeah, like honestly, like I'm not that type of person. So like I'm already like I have too many things. Like I don't know what I would buy. I think like if anything, maybe I would move to the south of France. Like that's probably what I would try to figure out how to do.
The south of France?
Yeah.
France.
Yeah. Free
Of all the countries.
free healthcare and all the cheese in the world. Do you have any idea?
But there's other European countries.
And France,
not France,
is one of the best ones. So
okay. French people, if you're listening, I love you. Please not take
obviously
this the wrong way.
she doesn't, so do take it the wrong way.
No, I do. I'm just saying their records in past conflict would not make me feel very secure in the country.
Are you talking about like wars from 200 years ago or
I'm talking about wars from I don't know, 60 years ago.
Okay, but then that's most of Europe then.
Correct.
So,
well, that's not England. England was never conquered.
They still suffered quite a bit. Let's not.
They did, but they didn't surrender and they weren't conquered.
Let's not.
I'm just gonna throw that out there.
They're surrounded by water.
Right. I understand the idiocy of this. Okay?
You are such an American. It is insane.
Yes, 100%. Yes, yeah. So this is the corn-fed Kristine coming out.
Yeah,
where it's
100%.
What do you think about first? Yourself. The second thing you think about is your loved ones, and the third thing you think about
your
is
country.
If the world, yes, if the world explodes tomorrow, whose team am I on? Who's picking me in gym class? And do I want to be on France's team or do I want to be on the U.S. team?
Yeah, I'm not going to be on the U.S. team, though. I'm just going to be straight up with you. Like,
in 99% of the things, the answer is no. But all-out war, I'm picking the U.S.
Yeah, all-out war, I think I'm going to be on Russia's side, unfortunately. Like, all-out war.
Oh, my God, no!
All-out war, I'm pulling out the Polish, and I'm going to be like, yo, dziękuję.
Dude, I cannot.
Like,
there's not a lot the U.S. does well.
It's not war.
We just don't.
It's not war. It hasn't been in a long time.
Blowing shit up is something that we are semi-decent at. The Afghanistan war, not great. We didn't have a great showing. That's fair. Vietnam War, also not great. Korean War, also not great. But
and you're talking about countries that didn't have huge military presences to begin with, and we already were struggling.
Correct, but we lost the same way in all three of those wars, and that was urban guerrilla warfare, which is very effective, which is what Ukraine is doing currently against Russia, and it's very effective. Like, correct. This is all correct. You're not wrong. I'm never gonna not agree with you. This is all correct.
I'm just trying to point out that your logic isn't logical.
No, it's flawed. It is flawed. But back to gambling.
Oh yeah.
In my mind, the safer bet
would be the U.S.
Would be the U.S. And there's a few reasons for that. If
I
become
a fighter tomorrow,
but if I became a fighter tomorrow, I need to be able to read instructions on things that I'm doing.
That's fair.
And I need to do that in English, right? Like if they were like, "Hey, suit up, you're in Top Gun. You gotta go be the new Maverick." I'm like, "All right, cool. Give me the instruction manual." And if they hand me the instruction manual and it's in fucking Russian, I'm screwed.
Well, okay, yeah, I can't. True. Many of us would be.
Right. So that's like but that hedges my bets, right? Because I'm like, yeah, all right. So like I'm a little safer because I can read what I'm doing. But it's the same for England, right? Because I can read everything in England.
Okay, so it would be like England, Scotland, Canada. Those are your countries. It's like solitude. Solidarity, I
Yeah,
guess.
and honestly, if I had to really pick, and they were like, you can go to the U.S., you can go to Canada, I'd probably be like, Canada or
Oh
Australia
yeah, there's also
because
sorry for our Aussie friends.
slash New Zealand. Australia has a pretty robust
Oh yeah, I
military.
wouldn't fuck with the Australians. I guess like if I had to pick somewhere to hide, it would for sure be the seventh circle of hell that is Australia.
Right. So I'm like, I don't. Anyway, my point is,
The point is, if the world is blowing up, go to Australia.
right, and your lottery win of going to the south of France is fine. I couldn't do it because in my nonsensical brain, if we ever had a military complex disaster, I would rather it be with me in the U.S. than not.
And
But
realistically, like, I guess that makes sense because in the US, you are kind of on an island farther away from other countries, whereas in France, it's kind of like being Texas.
right, and your closest allies are also just as small as
Right,
you, and like,
right.
so when you guys rally, it's like, no, we're getting creamed anyway, and like that's why World War II was such a disaster because Germany got so big so fast. It was like, we're all just crushed. Do you know how France surrendered to Germany? Because it's a fascinating story in World War II.
I believe I have heard it, but please enlighten our listeners.
So
Readers.
readers.
I
So
hope
in
not.
World War One, Germany surrendered to France in a train car. Hitler hunted down that same train
Oh,
car,
he's so petty.
took it into France, and made France surrender in that same train car.
He was such a showman. You know what I mean?
He really was.
Like,
But I mean, that's how he got into power, right? He was so charismatic, and he could motivate a sloth to be better, better in his mind, which was clearly flawed and awful.
right.
But be transformative. And that's, you could argue that's why Trump did as well as he
No,
did, because he
I
rallied
agree.
the right people at the right
Yeah.
time,
I
and
was going to say the same
it's
thing. It
that.
was the Trump effect.
Yep, it's that perfect storm of strife and charisma. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't.
Sprinkle in some financial
I don't know
hardship.
if I love saying charisma as much as I love saying manipulation, but I think charisma does give an air of like, especially in like the Trump effect, an air of like, oh, it was an accident. It was just like a perfect storm of events. Whereas like manipulation makes it feel like they knew what they were doing, and I don't want to give Trump that much credit.
But charismatic people are often
Manipulative.
and can be manipulative.
Extremely, yeah.
Like we've talked about this. Charisma is a superpower, and you can use it for good or you can use it for evil. And I can very
Well,
easily.
that's the truth with manipulation as well.
Well, that's my point. So I can very easily tell when I am manipulating someone, or if I could manipulate someone.
Same. See, I have a real okay. This is interesting because I have a really hard time with this because I feel like all manipulation is bad, and I've been talking with my therapist on trying to figure this out, and she was like, "It depends on the level of harm. Like, are you intending to cause, or will this like harm the person? If the answer is yes, then you should not do it. If the answer is no, then it is what it is." And I'm
But
like,
it still feels
but it still
gross.
feels gross. So like, are we calling manipulation without harm charisma now? Or like I'm like
That's
you
yeah,
know?
actually. And you could even go a step further and go, we call that sales.
Totally. Well, no, see, I do feel like sales is manipulation sometimes though.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, so manipulation without harm
Yeah.
is charisma,
Okay.
but I would argue that is right next to sales.
Okay.
Like,
That's fair.
I am selling you on a product. Now, if the product is to harm you, then now we're strictly in the manipulation
Okay.
camp,
Okay.
right? Like if I'm trying to scam you, we are in manipulation
Right.
territory. But if it's just to make a sale and you like the product and it doesn't hurt your bank account, it doesn't hurt anything at
Right.
all, That's just charisma. I'm just charismatic. I've just convinced you to buy something
Right.
that benefits us both.
Right. That's like, this is why I think the English language is so interesting, because I would also call that like, well, you're also persuasive. Like you're
100%,
definitely persuasive.
Yep.
But just being persuasive doesn't necessarily mean that you're charismatic. And it's like, that's very interesting.
Right. Right. So yeah, so I've been told often that I am charismatic, but I'm not very persuasive in that, like, I can't walk up to somebody and talk them into doing something. But if I have a casual conversation with someone and I drop a few words in a few places, my brain knows that I will at the very least commit inception. I will make you think about that idea.
Commit inception. I love that so much.
Yeah, you remember the movie, right?
Oh my god. Yes.
You remember the movie.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a crime though.
For those of you that don't know the movie Inception, the whole thing is that they get into this dreamscape where they plant a seed, an inception of an idea, and it's a crime because it's illegal to invade people's dreams, duh. And
not currently, but it will be.
No, but so I can, if I'm making the effort, commit inception of planting a seed of doubt or planting an idea and hoping that it grows in the way that I want it to grow. It might not. I might not have it. I might not be able to cultivate it to grow in what I want it to, and that thus I would argue I'm not very persuasive. But I put the plant there, and the plant is there. Now, charismatic and manipulation, I've done to get out of trouble.
Yeah,
and that
is the sleazy.
Like, I've had run-ins.
Yeah, that's the sleazy end.
Yeah, I've had run-ins with police where I've been like, here we go, and I've leaned into having white privilege. Like, I've leaned into being like, I'm white, masculine looking, this benefits me, let me make some jokes about a sports team that I know that you like let me just kind of schmutz it up with you so that I know I'm going to walk out of this thing. Is that harming anybody? Maybe. If I'm Ted Bundy, right, which he did. Ted Bundy was very charismatic, and he got out of being in all this trouble. He had a body in his fucking car.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I just
he smiled his way through all of his trials.
Through all of it. And the man got away with it. And he got a woman pregnant while he was incarcerated.
Oh, I know.
Like,
I know.
Anyway. There's a fine line to walk between charisma and manipulation and all of it. And all that stuff. Yeah. And Hitler and Trump both, I think, have a level of charisma. Of like that confidence of like, what I'm saying and doing makes sense. And they know how to make it manipulation. Is Trump an idiot? 100%. But his business tactics taught him how to talk to people.
To get his way.
And how to talk to people to get his way. Yeah. Yep, to get his way. To make that sale. Yeah. And he did it to the right people at the right time because there was the perfect storm of strife, financial crisis, and anger and hatred. And he went, so this tiny group of people thinks this way, but nobody's saying it out loud. I'm going to walk up there and I'm going to say it out loud and I'm going to see what happens. And he hate
giving him that much credit because I don't really think that's what happened. I think most normal human beings, that's what would have happened. But for him, I really think it was like, I'm going to say what I think and these people seem to love it. So I'm going to keep saying it because these people seem to love it. I'm going to say more of it because these people
100%.
seem to love it.
100%.
And like, I think it was just that over and over again for him.
I think people in his circle very much were like, oh shit, this guy, we can throw him on a podium and we can get some shit done. And they were like, hey, you should go do this. Yeah, just go stand in front of that group of people, spout out that shit again, and then we'll handle the rest. Yeah. And then he got in power, and then he was like, all right, I'm gonna hire this guy and this guy and this guy. And they're like, hold it, wait. These are not the people we want. These people also don't want to be here. So they're fucking resigning and quitting and being fired left and right. And then he's like, well, wait, I'm confused.
Yeah, I feel like that's also what happened. Is it was like a bunch of people around him were like, well, whatever, he'll be the puppet. And then he got into power and he's like, I have all the power. And everyone was like, whoa.
Exactly. Yeah.
You really don't. Yeah. Hold on.
He little man syndrome in the house. And then they were like, hold up, wait, you can't throw the truck. We're taking the truck away from you. You can't throw the truck. We're taking it away from you.
You don't keep doing that.
Take your ball and go. Yeah, take your ball and go home. And he was like, hold up now. No, I'm going to double down. I'm going to cancel the Paris Act. I'm going to hang out with Russia all the time. And they're like, hold up, wait, no. And then they were like, all right, hands up. I guess this is just what the GOP is now, and we hate everything.
Yeah. They just resigned to being like terrorized by a toddler. They're like, well, we can't control him, so
right. Not to be too political here, but guys, we have no idea the damage that this human being did, and we won't for another 10 years. Like, you can't ever judge a president until 10 years after their presidency, which is why we are just now seeing all the true effects of what like George W. did, and all that stuff. But we can all, I think, all agree that the man had zero social tact when it came to anything other than being a bigot. Like, he just didn't. And right, wrong, or indifferent, like, my father loves me. He loves gays. He's all about it. But he loved Trump's economy, his economic standing, because he's an old white man.
Right, yeah. And he appealed to old
like,
white men.
He's like, sweetie, exactly. He's like, sweetie, I love you. I also really love my retirement account. He's like, and I believe that there are enough people fighting for you and the gay rights that exist that I can vote on multiple issues. And multiple issues for me is my wealth and my economic standing. I'm retiring. And I'm like, Dad, I love you. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because we can have those conversations or whatever. So it's like, I don't want people to be like, oh my God, she's just a Trump hater. Like, I don't like him. This is correct. But there are, I can have a conversation about why he was good at certain things that he did and whatever else. But also, the man banked on the previous administration's unemployment rates. Like, the changes that Obama didn't, you don't see those things until after they're gone, right? So, like, you start to see them in Trump's administration, and Trump's like, oh my God, it was me. Oh, hail me.
Right. Which, like, I think a lot of people understand, but I mean, whatever. It is what it is. Thankfully, he's been kind of MIA and gone for a little bit. Let's hope it stays that way, but
we'll see if it circles back. Oh, this episode's running long, but I would like to answer the question that I originally asked you that started the whole France conversation.
Oh yeah, what would you spend your money on?
My luxury item would 100% be a fully electric motorcycle and a fully electric car.
Oh, okay, yeah, those are good ones.
I really want, like, I don't want a Tesla. I want a fully electric SUV.
Yeah.
But I don't want to pay for one right now because I don't have a car payment.
I hear you.
And I want a motorcycle, but I don't want to pay for the gas guzzling motorcycle. I want an electric motorcycle.
That's a really good one, actually. I would 100% buy an electric car, especially out here in Southern California. Because there's charging stations literally everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, there's a lot in Massachusetts, but just not. I don't have any outside power in my apartment. So it's like I wouldn't have any way to charge at home. And I'm like, that's a big thing for right now is why I'm like,
check any parking garages near you.
Well, there's public libraries have them, and like some of our grocery stores have them. But if it takes a half hour to an hour to do like even a half charge, it's like, do I really want to leave an extra half hour or hour early in the morning to get this done to make it to work? Like, but my job is talking about putting in charging stations.
I think they'll start popping up. So, I mean, either way, you didn't win the lottery, so I guess you have some time to figure this out.
This is correct. So, on that note, thank you so much for joining us on
roller
this
coaster.
Very long ride. It started with try. We didn't really talk about try.
We did, because we talked about Murray. He is the epitome of trying.
Oh, right.
He does not give up.
Yes, he is the epitome of trying. He doesn't give up. We talked about Hitler being petty. We talked about the Trump-Hitler parallels. Charisma versus manipulation. The jury's still out. It was a whole thing.
This went far. This was a lot. This is a lot really very early in the morning.
It is very early for us. My medication just kicked in before this started, so I think that's why I was so hyper-focused on able to really complete some thoughts in there.
All I kept seeing was my notifications reminding me to take mine.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye.